Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Hey, what's good, everyone? How in the world are you? This is your boy, Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation. And we're back doing it again here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, bringing you more content, creating more episodes, and having a blast, courtesy of my studio. That's right. We're over here in Wheaton, Maryland at the Prototype Studio. Wheaton, Maryland is not far from Washington, D.C., so it's pretty cool. I'm really excited. I'm really happy. And the fact that we're here is incredible. I got to tell you, every time that I'm back here, that I'm here at the Prototype Studio, doing my thing, being creative and doing all that and then and a whole lot more, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel creative. It makes me feel that I am in my element. And it's always a great feeling. You know, obviously I always feel that way no matter where I go, whether if it's here at the Prototype Studio or if I'm on location or if I'm over at the KU Dungeon, which is, a place where I periodically go to do like in-person interviews, or if I just need a space to go ahead and be a little bit more creative and be a little bit more louder than usual, I definitely will do that. But it's always good to come back home, to the home base. I'm really excited. Obviously I do have a serving, a great dish for everyone today, serving up, an appetizer, a salad, an entree, a soup, and a dessert, a definite 5-course meal, if you would say. But, alas, I know that I'm speaking a little bit too much. We need to go ahead and get this thing going, because obviously that's what we do. We're trying to stay focused and stay on top of things and try to do what we can do as, podcasters and so forth. So, that's why I'm here. That is why I'm here, and I'm loving it, and I can't wait. Recently, I just got back from a trip. I mean, it really wasn't more of like a trip, like a relaxation trip. It was more like I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I went over there because the Taekwondo school that I train at, they had a couple of students as well as a senior black belt instructor of mine go over there and compete. So I wanted to go ahead and go there to show my love and support, because I'm always a person that if I know someone that's going to do something, at this specific example, competing in a martial art tournament, if I can do it, if I have the means to do it, and if I have free time to do it, I want to go over there and to travel and show my support, because, I think that as a member of the same martial arts school, being this, a fellow student, you want to be there for, your fellow students, and you really want them to have your support and your love and the energy and so forth. So I went there, and lo and behold, when I got there, it happened on last Saturday, I believe. We went over there last Saturday, and it was really cool. It was really an amazing tournament held by a gentleman by the name of Robert Zhang, who is a grandmaster of Taekwondo and has been studying Taekwondo for many, many years. And, I knew a lot about him because, initially, from what I understand, he came from a school, years ago, from the Young Brothers Taekwondo School Academy that is famous over in Pittsburgh, in the Pittsburgh area. And, I heard that, he was, Robert Zhang was throwing his tournament. We got like an invite, our school got an invite to come over and to, compete. So I went over there. And I saw Robert Zhang for the first time, like in person, and I wanted to, introduce myself because I knew I made an effort to, communicate with them and ask him about like certain information. He accepted me as a friend on social media and so forth. So I thought I would do the right thing, the proper thing, to go ahead and introduce myself, and just say, "Hello, sir. How are you? My name is Kim Hoang. I come from Annapolis, Maryland. We're friends on social media. I just wanted to introduce myself in person and just to shake your hand and said, it's finally a pleasure to meet you in person." And he was such a great guy, like a real nice guy. But he threw a curveball at me that I didn't expect. And it's not so much that it's a curveball that I couldn't do. It's just something that I normally don't do, which, he basically came up to me and he said hello, and he just went out there and said, "Hey, do you want to judge our competition and, and kind of help things go smoothly?" And I told him, honestly, like, "Sir, I definitely would appreciate that for sure. But I mean, I just paid my, my admission to just, to spectate. I wasn't looking for being a judge or anything of that sort. I just wanted to go ahead and cheer on my fellow students and watch them succeed and so forth." And he said, No, we got this. And he tells the, a woman that is doing the, admissions for like, people to come into the tournament, "Hey, I'm going to need a refund for this gentleman because he's going to go ahead and judge." And I saw a little bit, like, I know a little bit about judging and how to do it. I just didn't know about like their protocols and procedures on how they judge and how they do certain judging and so forth. So really, from that perspective, I was like, oh my goodness, like, wow, you're really putting me in a position where, like, I'm basically doing this for the first time, if not the first time ever, as a black belt of my, position, and to, be judging in a prestigious tournament like this, where, that day, like, literally, I was busy. I was judging, different divisions and different ranks, anywhere from judging yellow belts and green belt division, judging weapons, which I knew nothing about, but I kind of felt like, weapon forms are like forms, but the weapon is like the extension of your body. So if I just kind of took the base of it, of just like, the kicking, the punching, the stances, the movement, the timing, like regular forms, I would be fine. So judging weapons, judging forms, and judging sparring, and I was there, just judging a little bit. It took me a while to kind of get comfortable, but I'll be honest with you, I was really nervous because, judging in a prestigious tournament like this one, it only takes about a select few people to really understand the importance of, judging, because, you want to make sure that you judge correctly. You want to judge to be fair. You want to make sure that, your decision and your voice is heard to help determine, the result and the outcome of certain divisions within that tournament. And I got to tell you, like, for a while, I was, even before, I judged, I had my reservations. I really did, because I felt like, wow, I've done judging before. I have, but it wasn't in this specific, it wasn't like in a specific situation of tournament. You know what I mean? Tournament, it's a little bit more different. because obviously there's more eyes on you. People are expecting you to know a lot about what's going on. Sometimes if you favor something, and let's say a parent of a child, is watching their kid compete, and they see something they don't agree with, all heck breaks loose, for a lack of a better term. I just knew at that point, I felt like, well, I'm in it. At this point, I can't say no. So I got to go ahead and at least, put in some effort. And my plan was very simple. I was going to go ahead and judge and do the best that I can. And then at any point, if I felt like I really couldn't, handle it anymore, I would respectfully say, you know what, I think I'm good. Just judging the way that I did and so forth. It took a little bit out of me, so I think I'm just going to have to say thank you for everything, but I'm going to respectfully decline the rest of the day and just kind of, catch one with myself. I didn't realize that, I was going to be judging the whole day, from beginning to end. Like literally, like I was selected by Robert Zhang to help out judge for the men's black belt division, which was quite an honor in itself, because I feel like Mr. Zhang really saw something in me. Maybe it was my character or maybe my lineage or something, but he saw something in me that was like, yeah, I want you to judge with me on this one. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is that, no matter what it is in life, sometimes we're always going to feel a little bit nervous, right? About something that we're going to do either for the first time or maybe the first time in a while, and let me just paint some examples for people. Let's say you're a musician, right? And, you've play around with the guitar, you mess around a little bit, but it sounds pretty good. And now you have, your first big break of, performing for a live show. Now, you probably had done something for like a small crowd, just as like a practice show, but to actually have a show and presenting your music and so forth for a bigger crowd and an audience, yeah, I can see where people get a little bit nervous for sure. Obviously you want to do well. You don't want to mess up. You want to sound like you know what you're doing, that you've been doing it for a very long time. Another example, let's say for the actor, you want to go ahead and you want to put your best foot forward in trying to audition for a role for a movie. And you're like, man, I'm nervous, because I don't know what the director is expecting. I don't know what the executive producers and the casting directors are asking for. They're just giving me a script and they're asking me to read for a role, and we're going to see what happens. I don't know, if I'm going to get it or not, but either way, it's kind of nerve-wracking knowing that I'm doing this in front of people, and it feels like I'm actually doing this for the first time. I get it, folks. I totally get it. It's one of those things where, like, you get so nervous and you feel out of control and you feel out of place and you feel like, man, how in the world did I get in here? Well, guess what? The truth is this. You wouldn't be there if you didn't believe in yourself or somebody didn't believe in you to actually be able to do the job, to go ahead and get this mission done. So in this particular sense with me in this tournament, I guess you could say, for a lack of a better term, that Robert Zhang, if he gave this to me, it's because he believed that I could do it. If he didn't think that I wouldn't be able to do it, or I didn't have, the potential to do it, I don't think that he would have offered me the position of being a judge. He definitely challenged me in that sense because it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse in certain areas. But, at the end of the day, when, you actually start from point A and you ended at point Z, at the end of the day, it feels like, if you really did it and you tried it with the best of your ability and nobody's really saying anything, guess what? You did a good job. You really did. And I really felt proud of, contributing to this tournament and helping out the best way that I can. Just, number one, I could say that I helped out my martial arts community. But number two, help the proceedings of the tournament to be, fairly judged, if you will, to be judged fairly, and to make sure that there was no ifs, ands, or buts or favoritisms. It's just you're judging fair, you're judging objectively, and you're doing exactly what you need to do. So for that, I definitely want to say thank you to Robert Zhang for giving me the opportunity to judge in his, martial art tournament. I definitely felt like it was a great tournament that had a lot of, world-class martial artists and competitors. And, the fact that, we saw a great, black belt, I guess you could say, we saw you could say that it was one of those presentations, black belt presentations. Black belts that got honored on the, the Hall of Fame, their tournament Hall of Fame. Some of them including, Joe Goss, also, Frankie Calderon, Mike Warren, Amos Johnson, just to name a few, OGs and, people of martial arts that are very, very respected in their community. And I think it was great. It was a good turnout. I thought it was some great competition out there, and I want to thank Robert Zhang for his love and support and his belief in me to referee and to judge and to do things. It was really, really cool and very, very solid, no doubt. So that being said, now knowing that is over, I feel good. Will I be nervous for other things down the line? I'm pretty sure that I will, because it's human nature. But at the end of the day, I just have to tell myself, hey, you're just as good as anybody in life, no matter what it is, whether if it's judging a martial arts tournament, whether if it's competing in a martial art tournament, whether if it's auditioning for a part in a movie role for a local film, whether if it's being a podcaster, whatever. I now walk a little bit more strongly, with a little bit more confidence, knowing that I didn't have a certain amount of confidence before, but now that I do, and I'm walking with that swagger, I feel pretty good. I feel like, man, this is dope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we're going to go over to the second segment, and then we will end it with our Q&A forum. You want to stick around for that, because there's definitely awesome questions that are going to be answered. So do what you need to do, take a little bit of a break. But when we come back, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience will be in full force. I want to tell you about an amazing store that's really good for all musicians, music enthusiasts, and a whole lot more, which is Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center in Wheaton, Maryland. That's right, you heard it correctly. Since 1958, Chuck Levin's has been actually tearing up the game when it comes to the music scene. And guess what? Since 1958, they have been the store to go to and a must-visit destination for any serious musician passing through our nation's capital. So, if you're actually a person that's in a band looking for a new instrument, such as an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, a bass guitar, or maybe some drums, if you're a DJ looking for the greatest DJ equipment, such as turntables and so forth, they got you. Hey, are you actually in an orchestra playing a woodwind instrument, brass instrument, or strings? They got you. They got all the classical instruments that you need. And let's not forget, for all my fellow podcasters, need a microphone? They got you. Need a podcasting vocal track recorder? They got you. They got everything, man. And I'm telling you, it's the best place to go. So if you want to check them out, go ahead and do so, because right here at Chuck Levin's, they're the best. Forget the rest. Mess with the best. Located over at 11151 Veers Mill Road in Wheaton, Maryland. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you want to know more about what they have to offer, you can go over to chucklevins.com online or give them a buzz at area code 301-946-8808. Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Like I said before, don't worry about the rest. Mess with the best.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
You know, this kind of question was given to me recently, and it's very befitting that we're kind of sticking with the theme of martial arts and stuff like that. But, you know, it goes without saying, and I really want to explain where it happened and why it happened and so forth. Most recently, I actually got a chance to hang out with a good friend of mine. We're both martial artists. Now, we both had competed in the martial art tournament circuit together. He actually competed in some tournaments that I have competed in the traditional circuit, while he also did his own thing in the sport karate circuit. That circuit, for those that might know it, it's called NASKA. NASKA, which means the North American Sport Karate Association. Now, that being said, you know, before I begin, I just want to go ahead and preface that this is just an opinion, you know, and this is just something that came to me. I thought about it. I put it out there. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying, you know, who gave me what or whatever. This is just something that, you know, this is my opinion and the opinion of myself only. Now, it's different if you agree with this opinion. You know, if you do, that's cool. And if you don't, I mean, that's fine. That's totally fair. I just wanted to give everybody fair warning so that there is no mistake on the matter. But that being said, you know, him and I, we were hanging out. We were drinking a cup of coffee over at the neighborhood Starbucks, and we're just, you know, kicking it, having a good time, and reliving some great memories. And the cool thing is that, you know, when we hang out and we talk, I mean, we can talk for hours on end about certain tournaments and history and, you know, stuff that happened and so forth. And, you know, it's no similar to, you know, two fans of basketball talking about basketball history and just kind of hashing out, you know, things of what happened during that era, who's the best in that era, and this and that and everything, you know. So far, it's good. But, you know, he comes over and asks me, you know, and he's the type of person that, you know, I don't know, like, he knows how to hit you with the right question at the right time, or just he knows how to hit the question at the right time. And we were drinking and talking, and he always said, Kim, you know, I always wanted to know what your take on this situation was, but what do you think about the fact, like, you know, when it comes to, you know, martial art tournaments, are there any type of politics? Are there favoritism, you know, or is somebody carrying more favor towards another person than opposed to another person? And it made me really think in deep thought, and I was like, damn, you know, I had to go back, and I really had to think about it. And I told him this, which is something that, you know, I'm glad to share with you guys now, which is, you know, politics happen in every shape or form. It happens on the Oscars, when you're trying to find out the best, film, the best actor, and the best actress. It happens in the wide world of sports with football, basketball, hockey, baseball, you name it. Even to, regular politics, it happens. So to ask me about, if there's politicking in martial arts or favoritism and so forth, I believe that there is. I do believe that there is. And, I've heard stories. I've heard stories, and I've seen some stuff too in my lifetime. You know what I mean? And let me just give you an example. Like favoritism. Say, for example, you're the greatest martial arts tricker out there, right? And everybody in the martial art tricking industry knows who you are, and everybody in NASCA knows who you are because, you're the top dog, and, you're famous and you're known worldwide. You have a heavy following on social media. It's great. But try to become a friend with that person, that tricker, just because, you guys have something in common of, being martial artists maybe, and, you run around the same circles, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get in. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, maybe from that popular tricker's point of view, well, if you're nobody and you're no one to be established, then why am I going to hang around with you? I mean, what's the benefit? How does that help me? And how does that help my reputation? How does that help my popularity? And at that point, it's just like, wow, that guy is just being, a real big jerk for just not trying to be friends with everybody, and especially somebody that, does not have the same kind of skill set and quality of work that you have, but they just respect, what you can do. And I think that's a little messed up. Politicking could also be in the form of, let's say, for example, you're competing in a tournament, you know what I mean? And you're competing and you're doing pretty good in your division. You come up with good scores and good numbers, but all of a sudden you have somebody that is in a prestigious, martial arts team that's known worldwide. And because, you're not that particular person of that particular team, now that other person that went before you that might be in no team will probably suffer because, hey, I'm not on a professional team like this person is. I'm not on Team Smoking Dragons. And because I'm not on Team Smoking Dragons, whatever score that I got will probably take me automatically to last place because, there's some favoritism there involved. They want to see this person win. You know what I mean? Is it fair? No, it is not. It really isn't. And the thing about it is that in the tournament sense, you really want to make sure that if you compete, it's fair. It is fair right down the middle. You call it down the middle. If somebody messes up, you act on it, you call them out on it, and just say, hey, I don't care if you're with Team Smoking Dragons or Team, Next Generation or Team, Generation X. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. You messed up, you dropped your weapon, you slipped and fell, you did this, you did that, you miscued, now we got to go ahead and deduct some serious points off you. You know what I mean? Or, yeah, because you're fighting for this team, if you messed up, and you clearly got scored on, we're not going to go ahead and score in your favor we didn't see it or no call or nothing like that. That shouldn't happen. If you're in a competition of that setting of a martial arts tournament competition, you want to be judged fair. You want to be judged with the content of what you can do. If it is your fault, it's because you made that happen. But, other than that, I think that there should be some fairness. I definitely think that there shouldn't be any politicking when it comes to, I'm going to be with this person because this person's got a lot of popularity, or I'm going to be with this person because, they did so well last year that, this year we should give them a little bit of a break. Now, have I heard anything personally about certain politicking or favoritism, yeah, I've heard a few from, sources. Nothing that, I mean, again, I'm not going to mention any names about them, but I've heard about it from some sources, and it just makes me really feel like, wow, if that ever happens, then what is the validity of the judging, and what is the validity of, said martial art tournament contest? It's just kind of unfair, when you want to be judged on your merit and your technical ability and your knowledge, then judge them on that. Don't judge them on the fact that, they're so popular that they could bring like a lot of money or this or that, or they're very marketable or just this and that and everything. It should be all about the skill and all about the knowledge. And if you can pull that together out of the hat simultaneously and kind of translate it very well, then yeah, you should be good and should be, again, judged on those merits. It really breaks my heart when I hear a lot of people, quote unquote, getting cheated because, this judge, is from this school and was actually voting for the said, prospective, tournament competitor. It's just sad and it's ridiculous. And, I don't even know how it got that far, to be honest with you. I think that, if you're going to go ahead and be judged, in competition, it better be with different judges of different schools and different associations. Because I've heard about the stories like, oh yeah, there's favoritism here because, this person's from this association, or there's favoritism because, we know this person and they're going to bring in a lot of good things. There's favoritism for the fact that, we actually just like this person. And it's really sad that, it goes that far, if I get judged, especially in the world of, martial art competition, I do want to be judged fairly. I do want to be judged by my own abilities and merits, and the fact that I'm able to translate that very well, for the judges to see. Now, I'm not saying to give me like the most easiest, answer to help me win automatically. I definitely want to earn my share, but at the same time, I don't want to be judged, in a way where it's kind of corrupt. And I don't want to be judged where, again, politics and favoritism are like parts of the ingredient of why I didn't win. I think that's unfair. I've seen it many times to many great people, even like, with certainty with like, with women that compete, that like do a very good job, and sometimes even more so than the men. And, they got scored not so favorably, and it makes me wonder, like, the how and the why did that even happen in the first place? With that, that said, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But I'm hoping that, maybe in this generation, maybe during this time, we can change all that, to be a little bit more neutral and to be fair and to look at, what it is that we're judging and to judge it accordingly in the right way. Whether or not if that will ever happen, I hope that it will, but I don't know. I think it is up to us as the individuals and the martial artists that if we want that type of change, then we have to make it happen. So it's like kind of saying, like, if you, like, let's say for example, you're a black belt and you're at a tournament and you want things to be, judged fairly. Well, I mean, you have the power to be a judge in that competition. So why not, put your why don't you just go ahead and put yourself out there and say, yeah, I want to judge and I want to help this competition to be fair, and I want to make sure that, everybody gets a good shot, not just this one person. Everybody gets a good shot. But, that's just me. That's, me being there, here. It's not here nor there. It's just me just shooting it from the hip and just, that sort of thing. So We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we will come back with the greatest session, the greatest segment of them all, the Q&A forum, question and answer. You ask it and I will answer it. So take a break, do your thing, come right back, because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is red hot.
In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I'm glad that you have returned with us. And this is kind of the end of the road here. I'm really excited to have been here today over at the Prototype Studio, creating and just making great content. Before we begin, I just wanted to go ahead and give a little bit of my condolences, as I just found out that Captain Don Koenig, who y'all know as like the guy that actually was a DJ, for the Shipwrecked with Captain Don over at Angel's Rock Bar over in Baltimore, Maryland, over at Power Plant. Did some stuff with 98 Rock and was synonymous with them. Just heard recently that he had passed away, and that really hurt. And that hit hard. Don was really known well within the community. A very likable guy, a guy that had a lot of respect, and you couldn't say anything really bad about Don. Don was a real good guy. He was a nice guy to me, because every time that I saw him over at Angel's Rock Bar and he did the Shipwrecked with Captain Don, he would always say hi to me. He would always, he would find me, he would point me out. I would come over, I'd give him like a hug and a dap, and he would just always say, hey, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. I hope that you're well. And I always appreciated that about Don, because to have a person be so nice to you and to show you that love and respect, to me, I feel like, wow, that's an honor and a pleasure that he gave that to me. And the fact that he gave me that love and respect, I, in return, have to give him that love and respect back. I'm just really upset because, in the later years, I didn't get to see him frequently as I would like to, because life had, taken over for the both of us. We were kind of busy in our own way. And, the fact that he's gone, it definitely hurt the community. And they usually say you don't realize how good that you have it until it's gone. And, to have a person like him no longer with us definitely hurt. So I want to give my condolences to the family, friends, and people that knew Captain Don Koenig. We just want to say that, we love you, brother. You will be missed. Thank you for, your generosity and your love and your support and just being nice to people. We really appreciate that. So, God rest your soul. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to go ahead and do the greatest segment of them all. But before that, a reminder that the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is asking for help on a voluntary basis. To anyone that would like to assist our podcast show by the ways of sponsorship and or financially donating to our podcast show to help make the quality of our podcast that much better. All the proceeds, all the money that we raise will go towards getting more equipment and better equipment that we need, such as microphones for in-studio guests, XLR cables for those, microphones, headphones for in-studio guests, even MacBook Pro. Yeah, the official computer of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Apple, we've been working with them. They're a great computer, whether if you have an iMac, a MacBook Pro, or a Mac Mini. We use a program called GarageBand that helps make this episode happen. And, this is what we do. We do it all for you, but we kind of also need your help at the same time. That being said, whatever that you can donate, no matter the amount, is always appreciated. Now, insert joke, if you want to donate $5 million, which I don't think anyone would want to donate that, but you never know, and we would appreciate it. Hell, we would even call you an executive producer. Thank you. To even as little as $5, every and any amount that you donate helps. And you can make a donation at the following. If you have PayPal and Venmo, you can go ahead and make a donation through my tag name at Kim Hoang MD Actor. Once again, that is at KIMHOANG MD ACTOR. Yes, PayPal also has a website, www.paypal.com. You can go online on that website and make a donation that way as well. It is all good. And or if you have Cash App, you can go ahead and donate that way at the tag name $ Kim Hoang MD Actor. Once again, $ KIMHOANG MD ACTOR. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The moment that we've been waiting for. You asked for it, and I am producing it. I provided it. The Q&A form, question and answers. You ask the questions, and I will do my best to answer it. Normally, we have a round of 7 questions, but we've also been known to do bonus questions, and today I'm being very generous today because in this sheet that I have, we have 7 questions, but we have 4 bonus questions. So I'm really happy about that. This is going to be cool. This is going to be awesome. I'm really excited. So let's just go ahead and do it because we got a lot of ground to cover, and I don't know how many, how much time that these questions will be needing or, how much it will require, but I'm just going to go for it. So let's go for it. Question number 1. Kim, do you ever have regrets in your life? Tom from Annapolis, Maryland. Yo. Back to the old stomping grounds, the home base. Yo, I like that. Tom, I will say this. There have been in my life a couple of regrets that I had. And yes, I'm just being honest that, there are some things that I wish I could have done, to improve where I am in life. But to make it positive, if it wasn't for those choices that I made, I probably would not be where I am currently right now. So, I mean, yes, I do have regrets in my life, but I also embrace it too. Question number 2. Kim, there are rumors that in the UFC, there are negotiations with John Bones Jones as we speak to fight at the UFC White House card against Alex Pereira this summer. What are your thoughts on this? Amanda from Rochester, New York. That's a good question. Amanda, that's a very good question. I would say that I've heard through the Ariel Helwani podcast, which is on YouTube. I got that from the YouTube chapter of the show, that there was some kind of video footage of John Bones Jones saying that he was in the current negotiations. And Alex Pereira would probably be the fight choice. I'm only taking it from what it's worth. That's only what I've heard. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. But if it is, I would say that would be a great addition to the event. It would be a great addition to the fight card. And you can actually market it so many different ways with that. I also think that, being that John Bones Jones is really tight with President Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump has like a lot of say, and that he would actually influence, Dana White to actually have John Bones Jones on the card and to kind of make this happen. If it was to happen, I think it would bring in a lot of notice, and I think that there would be like a lot of attraction. So why not? Why not? Question number 3, Kim, what are your thoughts when you hear that Taekwondo and Judo martial artists are basically players in a game of competition? Cliff from New York City, New York. Cliff, as a martial artist, I don't consider myself a player, and I don't think that this is a game. I consider myself being a martial artist, a martial arts competitor, and, I'm competing in a tournament, not a game. And the fact that people would kind of, rename the terms of, players versus athletes, game versus, tournament, to me, I feel like it's an insult. At least to me, I feel like it's an insult. And it's even more of an insult when people call it a sport, because I feel like, Taekwondo and Judo, it's a martial art. It's not a sport. It's not a team competition. It's, competition with the self. There's so many things that, martial arts does that helps to improve our way of life and our way of thinking. And when we think of it to be nothing more than a mere game, and we're just like, the players in the game, to me, it just doesn't fly. So I don't really agree with it. Not my choice, and not what I think. And I'm pretty sure that there are other people that probably think the same way too. So that's where I call it. So yeah. Question 4. Kim, if there was any reason why you would convert to being a full-time Android phone user and give up your iPhone, then what would that reason be? Oh my God. Mary from Richmond, Virginia. Wow. Oh man, you just stabbed me in my heart, man. Mary, that's rough. That's rough. Oh. All right. Well, look, Mary, I will say this. If I was to convert into Android, it probably would be the reason that, every time that you take a photograph using, an Android phone like a Samsung or something like that, the pictures and the resolution of that picture is super sharp. And so is like when you take video footage, if it's like, especially like the later editions of a Samsung Galaxy phone, I think it's like at a 21 or 22 or something like that. I don't know. But if you have like the most up-to-date Android Samsung phone right now, and you used it for that purpose of video capturing and or photography, phenomenal in the resolution once again of both the photo and the video. Other than that, I would still be, team iPhone all the way to the end. So that's my 2 cents on that. Question number 5. Kim, in a previous episode, you mentioned that you liked Hooters chicken wings more than the chicken wings at Buffalo Wild Wings. Why did you say that? And what's your current stance on that situation? Christopher, my guy, Christopher from Corpus Christi, Texas. Yeehaw. Christopher, I would definitely say this, man. Yes, I did say that. And I said that because I believe, and I still believe, that the Hooters chicken wing has a better food product. A lot crunchier, a lot juicier, and I feel like the flavor of the chicken, no matter what it absorbs, would be better. Hence why I think that the Hooters chicken wing is better. Although I did say that the flavor profile for just like the different sauces in Buffalo Wild Wings, it stands up pretty well. And I think that if you had the sauces from Buffalo Wild Wings and you mixed it up with the Hooter chicken wings and you put that together, I think that's the winning combination. I'm still going to support Buffalo Wild Wings for sure, because overall, outside of the chicken wings and the boneless wings, they still got like great burgers and sandwiches and so forth, and and their appetizers are pretty delicious and wonderful. But that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Not going to say anything else. Done. Question number 6. Kim, if there are people that you would like to interview for your podcast presently, who would you like to interview? Christine from Irvine, California. Christine, good question. I think the following people I definitely would like to interview. One of them being in the music industry. The other 2 are in the martial arts industry. If we're talking about the martial arts industry, I would love to interview the following people. 2 people. Grandmaster Frankie Calderon of Bronx, New York, the Boogie Down Bronx, and Grandmaster Mike Warren of Washington, D.C. Both of them are martial artists, being, black belts in Taekwondo. I think it really would be cool to actually interview both of them, not like together at the same time, but, individually, and to talk to them and to get to know a little bit about their history, their challenges coming up in the ranks of the martial arts, and what martial arts in tournament competition was like back in the days, of their era versus our era. So I think it really would be cool, and I think it would be great for them to kind of give back and to, drop a little knowledge, and just give back and give advice and so forth. Because when you hear, automatically the name Mike Warren, he is known worldwide. I mean, this guy is like the Michael Jordan of martial arts. Every martial art competition, tournament out there, when he was sparring, they knew his name. then they also knew that was most likely he was probably going to win because he was that good. Frankie Calderon, being the student of the late Grandmaster Joe Hayes, is also another person that you didn't want to sleep on because he was really good. And for those that didn't know who Joe Hayes was, he was I think he was like a Taekwondo practitioner as well, whose teacher was the late Grandmaster Richard Chun, who was the brother-in-law of the late Grandmaster Ki Wang Kim of Washington, D.C. Another person who I would love to interview from the music industry, my boy Davey Suicide. I have made that proclamation constantly, talking about like how I would love to have him on the show. And I'm definitely going to say it like this. With all of these individuals who are great at what they do and great in their art, I can only ask if they are interested and are willing to go ahead and to participate in an interview and make a great episode with me. I don't want to seem overbearing. I don't want to overpush. I don't want to overstep my boundaries because I have too much love and respect for each of these gentlemen, So I just will say that if and when it can happen, I welcome it. I embrace it. And at the same time, it would have to be on the terms that they feel more comfortable with it. And that's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. So it's no how can I say it? It's no beef. No anger or bad feelings. If they decide to say it's probably not for me, I would be okay with it. At least I know that I had some sort of response versus other people who I have asked, and unfortunately it's just kind of hanging on that clothesline, yet to be picked off. So we'll see. We will see. I don't know, but I'm hoping. So yeah. I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay, cool. So now that we got that, question number 7. Kim, between cold plunges, which is like an ice bath, and saunas, including infrared saunas, which do you prefer? Jose from Salt Lake City, Utah. Honestly, I like the sauna a little bit more. For me personally, because people with congestive heart failure, they benefit a little bit more with it because the heat in the sauna increases circulation and heart rate, which is producing similar cardiovascular benefits to moderate exercise, which can help lower blood pressure. It can help with heart health and so forth, and as well as when you're in a sauna, it's more like it helps ease the joint pain and reducing muscle aches and helping aiding your body recovery after a workout. I also like the fact that it kind of helps open the pores, all over your body. So, I guess with like the detoxification, eliminating the toxins in your body, and it's a good stress reliever. You know what I mean? Helps, relaxation. Promote relaxation by reducing cortisol, helping to lower the stress and anxiety and depression. Now, I'm not saying that the ice cold plunge or the ice baths are not bad. I think that if you are in a condition to do it, it is good for, muscle recovery and rejuvenation and so forth, and helps with better circulation. And I'm all for it, And I think that you have to find what's good for you. It's just for me, because I have, CHF, I preferably would like to use the sauna. That's the first choice. So, yeah, that will be my answer. All right, bonus time. So let's hit it. Question number 8. Kim, is there a streaming service that you have that you can't live without? Carolyn from Columbus, Ohio. Carolyn, I think honestly right now I love my Apple TV Plus services. I think it's incredible, and I think it's an amazing streaming service because of their original content and so forth. And I think it's just one of those streaming services that, if you really like originality, and if you really like the way that, Apple makes their presentation and they openly use their products and endorse their products, and everything that you see is mostly either, Apple created or just like endorsed, then, you're in for a good ride. Some of their original movies and content and series, phenomenal. I have recently did a bundling through Apple where with my Apple TV Plus and my Peacock TV, I've actually bundled it together, and now I pay for 2 services. I pay like $15 a month. And with that bundle, it saves me a lot of money, about like an extra $10. So I'm really happy with that. Yep. Question number 9. Kim, name one professional wrestler that you think should have gotten more in their career. Robert. Oh my God. From Idaho? Yeah. Boise, Idaho? Wow. Okay. Not many people from Idaho give us a shout out, but we definitely appreciate that. There's this wrestler from the 90s who I thought was really awesome. He entered the ranks through WCW. Then he went over, I think, to WWE, and then he went to ECW. Wrestler by the name of Too Cold Scorpio. Too Cold Scorpio literally debuted when he was in a tag match with Ron Simmons, and they were going up against, let me see if I remember correctly. I think it was the team of the Barbarian. If I also remember correctly, I think it was Cactus Jack. And it was, I want to say, Scotty Flamingo. I think it was like a Clash of Champions, event. And you see Too Cold Scorpio coming in with Ron Simmons. He comes in as an unnamed wrestler, but you see this dude coming in here doing like these fancy aerial moves, you know what I mean, like flips and all this stuff, and acrobatics, and just being a huge high flyer. And I felt like he I thought that he could have had like main event status. I don't think that he should have been like a mid-carder. You know what I mean? I think mid-carder was a little bit like insulting. I remember him actually winning the WCW Tag Team Championships with Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And I think that was like a one-time thing in WCW. I remember that he won a lot in ECW, being the ECW TV champ about 4 times, and an ECW World Tag Team Champion one time with the Sandman. Again, I really wish that, all of these organizations, WCW, WWF, now known as WWE, and ECW, would have gave him more of a push. And it really hurts because I'm like, damn, dude, you really have, you have the skills, you have the charisma, you have the personality, you have the package, and yet the way that they're using you, I felt like it wasn't, true to form. And I really wish that they would have gave him like a lengthy title run or like a run at the heavyweight championship of ECW or the WWE or even WCW, because I feel like he really could have done it. And I still believe that to this day. And shout out to Too Cold Scorpio, because he's a good dude. We're actually friends on TikTok, and he's a real nice guy, super nice guy. I feel like, if I actually lived near him, it would be like a thing where, like, maybe we were like really cool friends, like growing up in the same neighborhood kind of deal. So that's just the way that I figure it. All right, continuing on. All right, question number 10. Okay. Yeah, question number 10. Kim, what are your thoughts about martial arts schools awarding students the rank of black belt within a year or two? Oh, man. Barbara. And Barbara is coming all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Barbara, I would definitely say that it's a valid question. It really just depends on the school, because honestly, like, you could probably get your black belt within, maybe 2 years. If you went and attended all classes that you were allowed to on an everyday basis. So in that sense, it really wouldn't be hard. But it does seem like there is a questionable situation when you actually do that. It's like, holy crap, like at that point you question the legitimacy of the martial arts school. Is it because you just want to start selling belts and making profit, or are you really thinking that it's the right amount of time and you're going to prove to the world that students like that can succeed and get their black belt at that fast rate? Which at that point, honestly, I don't agree with it. I always felt like at least 3 years is the average of what it takes to earn your black belt. Because you're absorbing information, you're trying to grow within your rank, and also develop maturity as you climb that corporate ladder of success of ranking up. Just getting it within a year or two, I really feel like the martial artist doesn't really learn anything. And it's not to pick any fun at them or just jab an insult or anything. I feel like when you get more out of your martial arts education, it takes a little bit longer. So for me to hear that martial arts schools are doing that, I just feel like they're selling belts, man. They're not selling martial arts, they're selling belts, and they're trying to make a profit. And the more profit that you make, then the bigger your pockets. But at the same time, when you have that big pocket, what good is that student going to, how's that going to benefit the student besides getting a black belt? It's not going to help them any, because, you're selling belts and not selling knowledge. You're selling belts, but not selling them quality, So, yeah. I get it. We are in a world where, we need to make money, and it's a monopoly, and, money is what makes the world go round. But at the same time, it's the root of all evil. And I think that, being a martial artist and being a full-time martial artist as, your occupation, I really think that, you're better off, honestly, to do things the right way. I always feel like quality over quantity, At least that's the way I see it. So, last question, and then we are gone. Kim, it has been reported that Ronda Rousey will get back in the MMA ring to fight Gina Carano this year, May the 16th, 2026 on Netflix. What are your opinions, and who do you want to win the fight? Kevin comes all the way over from Raleigh, North Carolina. Kevin, I think it's good that Ronda Rousey is going back. I think that after all this time of, her being in the UFC, got done with it, and then going into the WWE, making her money that way, and now has parted ways from WWE and pro wrestling, I think, as a whole. The question lies between a lot of fans about whether or not if she still has what it takes to, be in that environment of competition. And yeah, I think it's great that, Netflix has made an event. They couldn't have picked a better fighter and a better opponent than Gina Carano, because Gina Carano, her stand-up game is phenomenal, man. It's good. It's really good. And I think that both the women will actually benefit, because it's like you're bringing them back into something that they know. You're bringing them back in a sense of, hey, it was a part of our glory days. And you're bringing them back because, they need money. And I think that this event will sell out very well. It'll get a lot of viewage, or viewing on Netflix. And I think it's just going to be an amazing situation where I think everybody is going to win. Everybody's going to be amazed by it. And honestly, I think that Ronda Rousey will probably take it. Just my opinion. She probably will, drain out the rounds a little bit. And then when she sees that, opening, she's going to go for that arm bar and submit her. That's been her bread and butter for most of her career. Not to say that she's not able to, have knockout capability, because she has done that, but that's on a rare occasion. But yeah, I think that Ronda Rousey will win that one, and therefore that is the end of the Q&A forum. Holy crap, we did it, and in good time too, man. So let's go ahead and close it out, ladies and gentlemen. We are on a lot of areas. You can locate us like Facebook. Go under the search box and go. And type in the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, or Facebook.com/the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Find us, like us, follow us. We appreciate it. We are also on Twitter, now known as X, and Instagram. Find us over at our tag name at TKHPC Experience. Once again, that is at TKHPC Experience, all in one word. Follow us. We'll follow you back. It's all good. We are on a lot of podcasting platforms. And, just go ahead and search us under Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Now, do us a favor. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast on all of those podcasting platforms. And if you have Spotify, please give us a 5-star ranking. If you have Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star ranking and a positive written review, because the more times that you do that, then the more times that we will be thrown over to the front lines of those apps. And somebody might be able to see us on the first page, and it could be like, hey, it's the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I was told about this by Maria. Maria said that's great. It has great content. We should like, follow, and subscribe to it, to which I would say yes, please. And also spread the word about our podcast, whether if it's like, in person, with a family member, a friend, a coworker, whatever have you. We definitely would appreciate that. And or just, sharing it through social media, like, again, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, all of that stuff, because that is what we call brand awareness. Sharing is caring, and the more times that you share that out in the public by those methods, then you're going to actually have more of an awareness about our podcast, and people will know more about it, and it's an increased chance of you getting to know that our podcast exists. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely appreciate that. Last but not least, if you want to be a guest on our podcast or a special guest host, if you have any questions for our Q&A form, so when when I do my solo episodes, if you have a question for our Q&A form for me, or if you have any constructive criticisms, just go ahead and email me at the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, drop it on the subject box, and in the body of the email, just go ahead and write out whatever you need to write, and then just email the whole thing to me, and I will get back to you on that. I love communications in this way. Usually it might take me like a day or two to kind of read everything and then to respond back, but I will get back to you because I love communication in that way. Last but not least, guys, most importantly, the only thing I can say at this moment is just to please be safe out there. It doesn't do us any good if you do something that you're not supposed to do and you put yourself in danger and you risk dismemberment and you get buried 6 feet under. We don't want that to happen. We want you to be healthy and happy. We want you to be living life and loving life because you deserve it. And anybody else that tells you otherwise, you can tell them to go ahead and kiss your rear end and just kick them in the chest and watch them fly out of your misery, or out of your radar, because, we have no time for negative stuff. We have time for positive stuff and being uplifting, and that's the way that we want it. You know what I mean? That being said, again, thank you for your time. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it. This is not only my podcast, but it's your podcast too. And as long as you want me to keep going and doing this, I'm going to do it until, I literally physically can't anymore. So for the one time here in Wheaton, Maryland, over at the Prototype Studio, this is your boy Kim Hoang. I am the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power within the hour, and the dude with the right attitude, saying thank you. God bless you. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do for us, with your love and support, and we couldn't have done it without you. So take care, be safe, be well, keep doing what you want to do, and keep shooting for the star, keep shooting for that moon, because if you miss, you're still amongst the stars. So that being said, thank you. God bless y'all. And we'll check you out real soon on another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. It's been wonderful, guys, but I gotta bounce. Peace.